One of my very favorite things about being an English teacher is being told that I'm overthinking things or I'm reading too much into things. Folks, it ain't true. I have to tell you that the world is encoded with information all over the place, and that's just on accident. When you look at the world of advertising, the encoding is on purpose. The encoding is a type of reverse engineering of the process of human thought. One of the most high paying jobs you can get as a psychologist, as an anthropologist, as a sociologist is indeed working for marketing. They study the way we think. They study the impact that images have on us. They study the impact that noises and sounds and movement have upon us. Uh, it's so much more well funded than any university lab in the world, probably than all of them put together. I mean, it is, if you take all of advertising put together. Anyway, these things are thick with meaning, and our minds do unravel and unwind meaning from things that we encounter. We can't help it. So, I want to teach you how to read an ad. If you're looking at an advertisement, and for the sake of simplicity, we will talk about a print advertisement right now, but this can be applied to any other advertisement, little thing before your TikTok, commercial, YouTube interruption, blah, 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 blah. Okay. There are three levels of meaning to look for when you are decoding an advertisement. The first level is something that you might just run past if you're not careful. The first level of meaning is literally and exactly what is it that you are seeing? What is happening in this ad? What is going on in this commercial? Now, why would you go past that? Why would you see what's something literal and just forget to mention it? That's because your brain goes directly to the second level of communication from an advertisement. The second level is the advertiser's intended meaning. So, for example, you see an advertisement of a woman sitting in a bikini on a beach drinking a Coke. You might first jump to the suggested meaning, the message that we think the advertiser wants us to take away. I'll say, okay, what's happening in this ad? And people say, well, obviously, Coke is relaxing and refreshing and attractive people like it. Okay, no, that's the intended meaning. That's level 2. Literally, we're seeing a woman sitting on the beach in a bikini, holding a bottle. The bottle's holding Coke. There's a label on it. It says Coke. It's important to look at those number one elements because they'll come into play later. But from whatever literal elements you're seeing in an ad, you will automatically, almost effortlessly, anybody should be able to understand the second level of meaning, which is the intended meaning by the authors of the advertisement. So what's the third level? The third level is, what is the cultural norm that is communicating to you the intended meaning? What is underlying in this advertisement that allows this to take shape? What is the cultural meaning of the advertisement? Okay, so this is more simple than I'm making it sound. In any given day, any person sees between 4,000 and 10,000 advertisements. On average, I think the number ends up being somewhere around 6,000. People see around 6,000 advertisements a day. They are aimed at you. Some of them are in particular aimed at you. Some of them are aimed at people like you. Some of them you just happen to be watching a soap opera during the daytime and you saw an ad for Mentadent, and this is not something that concerns you. Anyway, so why, with all of this number of ads, why is there a cultural meaning? It's because the advertiser does not want to reinvent the wheel. The advertiser, instead of trying to come up with a brand new message based on brand new social etiquette and brand new perceptions, they are going to instead reach into the rich world of stereotypes and pull out something that communicates something else and use that. So, for example, yeah, we don't have some sort of council who sits around and decides what is considered attractive. You'll often hear criticism at advertisements for trying to show us what attractive is, what people are supposed to look like. Well, this is because they play off of cultural stereotypes. They do not create cultural stereotypes, for the most part, but they perpetuate them. A cultural stereotype is a sort of assumed principle that is unwritten, that is exploited by advertising to communicate a message. And once that happens, that stereotype becomes stronger. So no, advertising did not invent the idea that young and skinny is attractive. But over the last many years, young and skinny has become stronger and stronger in this realm, and this has led us to great lengths of youngness and skinniness and all sorts of other things. Yeah, okay, there are some ads that reach into something better, some sort of like a body positivity type message or some sort of, more liberated framework. But for the most part, they only do that once these new stereotypes are firmly in place. Once people begin to understand what health at any size means, and what, body positivity means, then they can exploit these things. But they're not going to reinvent the wheel. They're not going to tell you, you know what, folks, this is what can be attractive too. They're going to wait. They're going to wait until there is some sort of public support for a different, commonly understood stereotype, because they are not going to waste their fraction of an instant with your consciousness on reinventing communication. They're going to play with what works. They're going to jump into the cultural sandbox, and they are going to make something that looks a lot like everything else you've ever seen and say, this is you. This speaks to you. Okay, so I do mention the youth and skinniness thing because our ideas of what is stereotypically, widely considered conventionally attractive is a pretty narrow bandwidth of things. And it has been since the 50s, and it has gotten stronger and stronger in the sense that there have been more and more extremes applied to this. And for the most part, of course, this stereotype of what is attractive tends to apply much more to women than men. Okay, so I want to unpack a few of these things. What to unpack first? Okay, why does this apply more to women than men? Traditionally speaking, men have the buying power. This is something that comes to us from a long time ago when men literally had the buying power, when women literally were not allowed to have their own money and make their own purchasing decisions without their, husband's permission. This is a type of social norm that is very, very slow to change. Not like icebergs, not like glaciers. This is like tectonic plates. This is like the movement of the Earth's crust slow to get us out of the woods about men having the buying power, wearing the pants in the family, as they say, which is, dripping with misogyny right there on so many levels. Why is this the case? It's because of this phenomenon called the male gaze. You've probably heard of it. The idea is that a male will look at a woman first as an object and only later as a person. This is taken sort of a step further by some people who consider themselves evolutionary psychologists will say something to this effect, that when a person sees something, it goes through three gates. Is it dangerous? Can I eat it? Can I have sex with it? And once those three questions are answered, only then is the object in question explored for its own intrinsic value. This is very arguable. We do not have brain scan technology that shows us that this is exactly what happens when you encounter something unknown. However, our cultural stereotype is that men see women as an object first and later as a person. Now. Why should women care? Come on, okay? This is ridiculously old, antiquated notions that still hang on today. That women's purpose in life, their value, is dependent on their ability to get and hold on to the right man. That the right man lends meaning to her life. Now, I am not saying this is true, and I am not saying that this is something that you have come to me believing, but this is a cultural stereotype. This is a very old cultural stereotype. Look at any fairy tale where marginalized, subjugated women are brought forth in meaning through the acquisition of a man. That the right man comes along, the slipper fits. Now, finally, this woman's life can begin. This is a tale as old as time. We are breaking free of these things, but these things have been perpetuated from the golden age of advertising to the present. This idea that the male gaze shows men something that they will see and enjoy. The idea that the male gaze shows women what men want to see. And that from that position, we will then begin to dig out our own personal values, goals, and definitions of success. This wasn't invented by advertising, but my God, it's been made stronger by advertising. So much stronger. There's a great scene in the TV show Mad Men. The very first episode. If you haven't seen Mad Men, press pause, go watch the whole series, come back. Hold on. Okay, press pause. Welcome back. Okay, so now that you've seen Mad Men, think back to the first episode. The first episode, towards the end, we have our, guy, Don Draper, works for advertising, talking to a woman who he is at once trying to schmooze her for her money because, amazingly, she holds on to the keys of the rather large account for a department store. And he's also trying to womanize here. These are two sides of the same coin to Don. And he asks her the very obvious question in his mind, very obvious question in anyone in 1958's mind. Why aren't you married? Of course, the suggestion being that she would get married and then never have to work. And she says, I'm never married because I've never fallen in love. And he says, that sounds like something I wrote to sell nylons. And she says, Mr. Draper, to you, maybe love is meaningless. But to many of us, it's much more than an ad pitch. And he goes, oh, you mean love? Like your heart palpitating, your feet off the floor, your eyes turning big, movement of the whole world, love? Pretty sure that was invented by advertisers to sell nylons. Boom. Oh, holy man. Powerful. These things have been perpetuated by advertising for a long time. So, our ideas about what is value, what is who we are, many of them come from this constant sort of social reinforcement. You know why? Mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are these little neurons in your head, obviously, and the neurons in your brain, that light up and mimic the movements and patterns of someone else near you. These are first discovered in, macaque monkeys, but we have found that all mammals have mirror neurons. This is why when you see something painful happen on TV, you can kind of feel that pain. Your mirror neurons light up. This is why we learn language. This is how we learn social interactions. Your mirror neurons start making you mimic social interactions so that you feel like you're taking place and you begin to understand the rules of this game, the rules of what's going on around you. Yes, true. Autistic people have underactive mirror neurons. With underactive mirror neurons, we do not socialize quite as thoroughly as neurotypical people. It's fascinating. This is why we have trouble with communication. We did not internalize communication on the same instinctive level that neurotypicals did, because without the mirror neurons, we had a lack in brain plasticity, and without the lack of brain plasticity, we did not form the neural pathways that unspoken, unmediated communication travels along that you would have learned if you had normally active mirror neurons. Let this blow your mind for a minute. Okay. So we see images 4 to 10,000 times a day of what is considered attractive. They're built on stereotypes that are pre-existent, but they try and mimic them in a persuasive way over and over to the point where it perpetuates what we think of as attractive. Our mirror neurons light up, and we begin to agree that this is what's attractive. All of us. All of these social norms. And yes, what is attractive is much more narrow for folks in the women's shoes than it is in the men's. Everything is. Marginalized people will be marginalized, right? So why? Why skinny? Why tan? Why are these things desirable? Well, I will tell you why. Because it didn't always used to be this way. Back in Victorian times, what was considered attractive was being pale, having soft hands, and being a little chubby. Pale, soft hands, chubby, we've come a long way. How did this change? Well, it changed with industrialization, guys. What can I tell you? Okay. Pale, chubby. This is because of food scarcity. The assumption that people who are struggling with money and are coming from a less desirable path for marriage would be skinny because of food scarcity. Why pale? Why is pale attractive? Because the people who would be less attractive for marriage in the Victorian mind was people who work. And where do people work in Victorian times? Outside. In an agrarian society, people work outside, and a polarity of people become very tan. Yes, I'm talking about Northern Europeans. And this becomes the model for something to be unattractive. And the model for attraction becomes people who spend their leisure hours inside, eating things, not getting a tan. This changes with the industrialization, because when industrialization comes along, people move from working outside to working inside. Now people are working from sunup to sundown in a textile mill, and they're getting pale. With poor people getting pale, the standards have to flip. Now you have to know that the people who are desirable to marry, the people with money, are the people who have leisure time to spend outside. They're not stuck inside in their laborers all day. Instead, they're outside enjoying the sun, loving things and stuff and nature, and getting tanned. And then a little bit later, this switches again. And this the other thing that switches about it, of course, is going from being chubby to thin. Post-World War I, post-Depression, really, I'm sorry. Post-World War II, all of a sudden, lots and lots of food is sold in cans. Lots of food is made with preservatives. Lots of food has much more sugar than it used to. And it becomes harder to maintain that skinny physique that came so easily to people who were food deprived. With an excess of food, with the excess of food going on in the United States especially, we then found out that our associations had to change. One of the biggest signs of poverty now is obesity. If you're very overweight, it means that you are using your money on cheap calories. Cheap calories that are mostly made from soy and corn and sugar, which are very tasty, blah, blah, blah. This is a stereotype. Please understand. Everybody is different. Everybody can be attractive. You're all lovely people. All of your friends are lovely people. But the stereotype changes because now they want to know who's being judicious with their eating. Who is it that can afford to shop at the Whole Foods and have the fancy kale and, mung beans and stuff? Those people who can afford to eat super healthy must be the attractive ones, because they're the ones you want to marry now. So you can see the standards change over time, but advertising follows right along. Advertising follows beautifully along, just keeping up with it, perpetuating it, making people skinnier, etc., etc. So one of the things that really changes how we see ourselves is this idea of cradle to grave marketing. Cradle to grave marketing is they want you to be a consumer from the get-go, a consumer from the start. They want to push lots of different buttons to get you buying and to get you picturing yourself buying. There has never been a greater emissary to this than Barbie. And I want to talk about Barbie just a little bit, because Barbie embodies all of this stuff that we've just been talking about. And yeah, the Barbie movie has repackaged Barbie as liberating and wonderful for women, as something idyllic, as something free of patriarchy. Oh, the irony. Now listen, I loved the Barbie movie. I'll watch it right now. I will pause this and go watch it right now. Okay, I'm back. It was great. But it still is dishonest in the sense that Barbie's totally a tool of patriarchy. Maybe this isn't its initial intent. Ruth Handler had all sorts of different ideas, but what they found was that, man, they could make a lot off of Barbie. So here's the thing. Prior to Barbie, mostly what was marketed at little girls was dolls that you carried around. And Barbie comes along. It's miniature. Miniature things are fascinating. Just inherently, they're fun. And when you play with Barbie, unlike a baby doll where you are, ostensibly the mother taking care of a baby, when you play with a doll, a Barbie doll, at its like 7 inches or whatever, you become Barbie. You act through this. Barbie becomes your avatar. In a sort of simulation world, you occupy the brain of this Barbie and make it do stuff on your behalf. Now, this is brilliant, and this was something that, frankly, they didn't see coming very much. It's hard to imagine in the 1950s that people didn't know that this would work so well, but man, did it. People are now using these Barbies as an avatar, and you know what they're doing, primarily speaking, is they are using Barbie as a way to allay the anxieties of growing up. There is so much pressure on women to conform in certain ways. There's so much pressure in their value that is mostly in the 50s, not in their hands. That their value will come at the hands of somebody else. Their value will come at the man's job, her approval by people, that the shape of her body, how she's perceived, is going to matter so much to her. And you don't know. You're a kid. You don't know what you're going to look like. You don't know what your shape is going to be. Well, here's Barbie to allay all of this anxiety. Through Barbie, you can begin to act out in the adult world. Remember those mirror neurons that help us see all of the different social interactions? Now you can practice them. You've been a girl. You've been going to the grocery stores with your mom. You've been, living vicariously through the happiness of your dad and brother, doing the dishes while they're playing board games. And now you can be the adult. You can bring together by yourself or with friends a whole little world of Barbies and make them do the adult things. Make them interact. And through this, you can allay your anxiety. Through this, you can begin to deconstruct all of the fears that you have and act out your hopes. And Mattel sees this, and they go, oh, let's do accessories. And basically what happens is that no matter what socioeconomic class you're in, you can all become, for a period of time in your life, a tall, blonde woman who has the purchasing power of a billionaire. Her own dream house, her own car, her own horsey, her own beach, whatever else, and name brand stuff. Especially as it headed into the 80s, there was more and more name brand stuff coming out for Barbie. So you can practice buying at a totally different level. And that you could really practice, because this is what Barbie was very much into, leisure. That Barbie is not defined by her job. She is defined by her ability to chill out. Her ability to not work, which again keeps her tan, keeps her skinny, and keeps her desirable under these stereotypes. So, yes, there are different jobs that Barbie has done, and they're thick with them these days. This was so hard for them to push. This was so hard because the job Barbies just didn't sell. People did not buy the job Barbies, and Mattel really, really wanted, for PR's sake, to have the job Barbies do well. So, for example, in the 2000s, they had a vet Barbie, and Barbie's a vet, and it came with a dog. Coming with a dog made vet Barbie sell because kids wanted the dog. Barbie didn't spend much time being a vet, according to research. So, in the 80s, there was an astronaut Barbie, and she had a pink, stylish spacesuit, and that's cool. There was business Barbie, but the big thing with business Barbie in the 90s was that, she was also ready for the nightlife, that her jacket turned around and it became something sporty, and her skirt got really short, and you fixed it up or something, and now she was ready to go out on the town and relax. So it was really all about the party out back rather than the business in the front. And there was college Barbie. She went to college. My God, college, right? So you can make your Barbie go to college and sit there and learn and become no, that wasn't the thing. The college had a malt shop and a drive-in movie theater. It did not have books and study materials and tests. It had places to socialize, because when a woman goes to college, we all know she's getting her MRS degree. Oh, that's so funny. So these stereotypes really guide people into perpetuating the beliefs of attractiveness and the buying habits of people as placing values on them. It's not necessarily insidious, but it's a little bit, because there is a lot of forethought gone into this. There's a lot of, people's ideas and marketing research and all sorts of stuff going into a way to perpetuate these things. So we have, a history of completely sexist marketing that has helped guide the completely sexist way that we see the world. We would like to change that. We like to see things change. We like to see things make progress and people begin to feel more free to view themselves in more ways. But it's difficult because the meaning is hidden everywhere in plain sight in a very decodable way. And people decode this 4 to 10,000 times a day inadvertently taking away the meaning of what is held to be attractive, of what is, desirable. To the point where, in the early 2000s, there were television shows about getting plastic surgery and how much everybody's going to like you more. I mean, it's shallow stuff, but if you can perpetuate anxiety about how you look in a world that we have made so visual, you can just take people's money. You can make them feel bad about how they look and then say, but now you can stop feeling bad because we have the answer to that. These little diet pills, or whatever it is that you're selling. Our flaws are taken advantage of. And our stereotypes are a massive flaw. And I only centered on one. I barely had enough time to cover even the tip of the iceberg on this one. I could make an entire series about sexism in advertising. 30 minutes seems okay, though. The point is that we are all socialized by this advertising. We aren't just being targeted to buy. We're having our beliefs and anxieties cultivated so that our work, our labor goes towards allaying these anxieties and beliefs and feeling better about ourselves. It's like magic. So, get a little more detailed next time. It'll be fun.